So, I suppose, without further ado, let's play the trailer and make some assumptions. Well, that's the Switch 1. I always thought that the colors were a little garish, but I got the gray colored one, so I'm boring. Oh. They got some GeoNodes action going. This is a Blender concept mock-up? Boolean? Right. I like this. This is like what the original should have had. That kickstand, or excuse for a kickstand they put on the original, was just pathetic. And they had to have known that at the time, but they didn't have a better way of engineering it, I guess, for whatever reason. This is actually something I think that might hold the thing up. Okay, so it works like a tablet. You can really lower it quite low. They've gooed parts of it. That's good. They've got salmon-colored paint. Yep, you can press buttons. You got analog sticks. Incredible. We didn't have those before. Sorry. I don't know what that was. Right, so this is a mistake. Why would you put the connectors like this? They're gonna break. The reason, and I agree, the rails weren't like a perfect solution, but the reason that the rails were a decent solution were they forced contact in the same way reliably every single time. This means people are gonna bash the thing into the connector and the connector's gonna get screwed up. That can't possibly be a good design decision, right? I guess it's more satisfying to, like, clip it in like that instead of slide it down. And I guess it's more intuitive because people probably try that. But on the other hand, too, would it not mean that in moments of intense gaming, which we all have so many intense gaming moments as gamers, would we not accidentally open the connector, right? Like, we might accidentally pull away from the central screen. Is there, like, a locking, like a toggle somewhere that keeps it locked in when you're not intending to disconnect it? Because if it just unclicks like that at any time, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. But I can't really see any mechanism like that from this. I also don't know if this is all-inclusive because it's just a design, like a render. I don't think this is actually necessarily the final spec look of it. Maybe there's more to it than I realize. That's an ugly logo, though. Switch with a giant number 2. Could they not have integrated the 2 into the controller design? I mean, I guess, again, it's very straightforward. Maybe that's all they care about. They just want the messaging to be clear. Wow, they're really going hard on the 2. Okay, fair enough. I think that the look of it in general, it's sort of a more mature look, although looks more like a Steam Deck to me. I prefer that they put the blue and the salmon color or whatever on the underside of the analog stick as opposed to the entire Joy-Con. I just think it looks nicer that way. But again, I'm biased because I bought the gray Joy-Cons in the first place, so this is fine. I'm okay with it. But it also means less possibility for customization unless they're going to offer the same as they did with the original Switch, different Joy-Cons with different colors. Are there any newer changed buttons? Not really. Oh, is that square button at the bottom under the home different? That wasn't there before, right? It was just the home button and the screen cap button before. I think that's the only change, though. I can't see the top and bottom really easily. I mean, there's a shoulder button that wraps around, which is probably easier to press than the sort of smaller ones that they kept at the tops. That's all you can really say about that. You can see the bezel is still pretty substantial because, well, there's only so much they could do with that aspect ratio. It looks sleeker when it's off, but then when you realize the screen is still, you know, you're losing 10% of it to the bezel, it doesn't quite feel as nice as if it took up that whole space. I don't know if this is something to actually scrutinize, if you even care or not, but it would have been cool if they could have gotten a full screen. And then they've really rounded the corners on the dock. It looks like basically the same dock as before as well. I mean, I can't see the guts of it, obviously, but it doesn't seem at face value like there's new features to it. I wonder, will they keep the same, where portable mode has it like a clocked down version of the processor, and then when it's docked, it has a higher res output? Or will they be able to just run it at the same frequency on both? I don't know. I'd kind of like it to be the same, but again, if it's a matter of what it can deal with, and you have to make a compromise, that's kind of an okay one, I suppose. I never liked this controller. I always went with the Pro controller over this. I don't know, does anybody like this controller? It just looks awkward to me. It looks like a weird dog. Like a melting dog. Would you like a transparent dock so you can see the new features? Well, I would like to see the new features, yeah. The Pro controller, by the way, I think is excellent. I have very few criticisms of the Pro controller. Just this one I think is awkward. They have also made the Joy-Cons bigger in general, so maybe that's one way to address some of your issues. Odd that they chose that shot to use for the Mario Kart in the background, because that asphalt texture looks really muddy. Not that I should probably be scrutinizing it, but like... you could have picked anything. Why'd you pick that? What does it say in the background? Diner Shine Sprite. Is it a new Mario Kart? Is that what they're showing off here? Is this going to be a launch game, a new Mario Kart? So the fact that that can come out at an angle like that makes me think that there's not a mechanism locking it in. Because they're kind of implying you could just, like, pull it off. But maybe I'm reading too far into it. There really needs to be a locking mechanism. There better be, like, some little thumb switch at the back or something. Yeah, 2025. That's this year now. Plays Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games as well as Nintendo Switch games Star. Nintendo Switch 2 plays both physical and digital Nintendo Switch games. Certain Nintendo Switch games may not be supported or on or fully compatible with Nintendo Switch 2. That's a pretty important star. Details will be shared on the Nintendo website at a later date. So you're saying, in the bigger text at the top, play all the games. And then immediately after you're saying, but maybe not all the games, though. Is it possible that they're emulating the games on the Nintendo Switch 2 and not actually playing them literally with the same hardware? It has no depth camera. Oh, is this already a known fact of what that star is about? Because it sounds like they're giving wiggle room for, we're going to try and emulate, but some of them are going to be messed up, so don't worry about those. It's about the Labo. Okay, well, if it's just about the form factor being different, then I get that. I would have preferred that they specifically outline that in this caveat, though, because this makes me cynical again. It feels like when the Xbox Series systems came out and they're like, oh, don't worry, all your Xbox games will work on your new Xbox system, and they're immediately like, actually, they won't, though. Some of them will, but, like, not all of them. Most of them won't. No shot that they're emulating. Okay. I have to say gently, and I'm not trying to dig at you, are you sure? And do you know that for a fact? Or are you just assuming that because it's also called the Switch that it wouldn't emulate? Remember when PS5 said it supported the top 100 games? Yes. Yeah, I'm not having a dig at you. I'm just wondering, like, I want to know where the actual information is as opposed to what the speculation is. And I think it's possible Nintendo might emulate. I hope they don't, and I hope you're right. But that is something to be worried about, potentially, that, you know, they're making weird caveats like this. So no specs, no specifics. We've got a Switch 2 direct date. I'm assuming this is an American nomenclature, so this is April 2nd, not next month. I don't know why it would be in European, but I'm just saying is that it is definitely not next month. I'd be surprised if it were emulation. I don't know if I would be surprised. They might have reasons to do that. It's in April, okay. So one other thing I wanted to look at here is this. What is this? I get this is the sync button. This is the connector. SL and SR. All of these are known entities. What is this? Is that like a locking mechanism like I was hoping for? Any ideas what that might be? It kind of looks like a little metal tether. That's the mouse sensor. Oh! Okay. According to factory reports, a motion sensor, you'll be able to use a controller as a mouse. They did show it zooming around on the table, and I wasn't sure what the hell they were trying to show there. I thought it was something to do with just sort of a transitional scene as they were adding the little, you know, those like latex sleeves that go on them. I thought maybe they were showing that. That makes sense, though. I could buy that. So there is like a new feature. One. Can you show me the bottom of the Switch, please? Yeah, let's look at these again. All right, so that's like a USB connector. Actually, I don't know what connector that is. Is that a proprietary Nintendo connector? There's also a headphone jack. That's USB-C? Okay. I couldn't tell because of these little ridges. It looked a little odd to me, but sure. I guess I just can't see it from that angle. So I'm assuming power, volume, rocker. Yeah. Some vents. It is nice that they show you it still has a headphone jack, because they could have just said, screw you, buy some wireless headphones or earbuds. Ah, then they cut away before they could show us the SD card slot. They're more interested in showing that thing swinging out. I kind of see stuff at the top, barely. What's that say there? Game card. Game cardo. I guess I'm interested in seeing where the internal memory comes in, or if there is an external memory slot, and I don't think we ever get to see the top right corner from the back of it. Or I guess from the front it would be the top left corner. We don't ever really get to see what's up there, so there might still be a memory card slot, but they also might just say, screw you, you can buy a new Switch if you want bigger memory, which really wouldn't surprise me terribly. the kickstand going low like that, you mentioned that that could be worrisome. The reason I'm not as worried, though, is you see how there's this sort of ratcheting, I don't know what to call that, an angle coming out of the top. I feel like there's an internal mechanism there that's ratcheting in on the side of it, how deep or how shallow you want to go with that to hold the weight up. So long as it's not an analog measure and there are actually like discrete click points that it can sit at, it probably won't wear out super fast. But I don't know for sure because I don't know. I'm just speculating about the internal mechanism to it. I think that they would hopefully have learned their lesson about failure points on this kind of thing, especially with regard to the drifting analog sticks and all. And they have to be able to secure the thing so it doesn't just fall over all the time. And it's kind of important that it not just be bashing into the ground over and over, because that's just going to lead to more failure overall. It looks like there's a button on the Joy-Con that pushes a cylinder out to detach it. That would mean magnetic attachment. Is that a satisfactory solution, though? Oh, you can kind of see the top right corner there, and it doesn't look like there's a memory card slot. It just looks like the volume there, and then whatever vents and whatever that is. Almost looks like a stylus hole. What is that little hooded edge there? Is that a stylus hole? Magnetic attachment has been pretty much confirmed. Do you think magnetic is enough, though? Oh, did you see that? There was actually a little thing there. Look at this. When the kickstand is all the way fully extended outward, it looks like it snaps into itself in a way to hold it at that angle, which sounds to me like even better confirmation that hopefully it won't just break. Like they've engineered that to sit that way for a hopefully prolonged period of time. It's a good angle to have as well, very, very low that way. Although, keep in mind, if you're using it interior-wise, there's going to be lights reflecting off of it potentially. But, you know, it's up to you how you use it. I'm just saying higher angle means probably less reflections. The memory card slot will probably be on the bottom. Well, unless they add it in. Again, I don't know if this is like final product render. It's not here. Right, we saw the whole bottom. They panned across it, and then they added the memory card, or the game card slot there. But I don't know what's next to the headphone jack. If it needs the help of a mechanical button to release, it might be pretty strong. Maybe the way it slots in helps keep it stable as well. Well, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I guess that hopefully whatever solution they've got will stop people from accidentally removing the Joy-Cons in process of use. Oh, wait, did we get a full spin here? Is that a memory card slot on the left? It is on the bottom. Maybe I just couldn't see it. Oh, there's symmetrical. No, that's just a speaker. That must be a speaker there. And then those are the vents, I think. Why is this so hard to see? All they needed to do was give me a close-up of every angle of it, and they still couldn't do that. USB, screw holes, vents, speakers? I thought because there was this little latch you could put your thumb under that maybe those were... or this was an SD card port, but it wouldn't be symmetrical then. Slightly frustrating. Whatever. I'm sure we'll see the whole thing eventually. I just wish we didn't have to be ambiguous about it at this point when we're finally revealing it. I like that effect. I want to learn how to do that. It's like a particle scattering field sort of thing. I'm sure you could do it with geonodes, but I'm not really sure how. This is not helpful, is it? It's just going to show us. Yeah, so you can see a better shot of that. What is the purpose of these divots next to the screw holes exactly? Is that like a machining thing? They're just like little holes that don't go anywhere. Oh, okay, to line up the dock. Okay, that makes sense. So to make sure that when you put one side in, the other side will meet it, and then it'll center properly. Good point. Yeah, I don't know why they'd just be machining holes into things for no good reason. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, I think at one point I got confused that there's multiple USB ports on it. Did it actuate when it moved out? Not that this would be representative, but I want to hear if it clicks along the way. That they would have had to add the clicks in post. They did actually add the clicks in post. Did you hear them? It went click, click, click. Implying that there would be 3 different actuation points that it would stop at. So, even if it's only a prototype or a theoretical that they've created for the sake of this product render, it implies their intent that they hope there to be 3 actuation points. There's the SD slot. Where? If you're saying the one at the top, that's the game hole. Under the stand. You're saying this bit here? Oh. Oh, is it hidden behind it somewhere? I kind of don't have a good view on it, but... yeah, I guess it's possible it's under there. On the right. It's very hard to see. Okay, well, so long as there's one at all, I guess that's all I care about. I don't really care how it looks or where they've put it. I just want it to be there. I didn't think about where it would be under the stand, so... fair enough. Yeah, they really seem to want to keep it pretty similar to Switch 1, didn't they? You can see the scaling up from the old to the new. I think the contour on the shoulder buttons looks like it would be a lot more satisfying. I do wonder, though, about this gap between the forward-facing one and the rear-facing one. It sort of seems like you could keep your finger attached around between both of them and press them both at the same time by accident. But maybe it's enough lower that it's not a problem. I don't know. Then the worry also is about, like, is this a spot where a lot of gunk will build up and it'll be very hard to clean? And that might be the case. Well, the fact that it's bigger at all is a net positive. I think they were awkwardly small for a lot of folks, myself included, which is, again, why I would use the Pro Controller the vast majority of the time. Occasionally, if I was feeling lazy or it was out of batteries, I would just use the Joy-Cons, you know, handheld. But I was rarely ever going to slot them into that Nintendo shell. Right, I think that's about everything that you could possibly take away from this. I'm trying to remember, the controller buttons had a kind of a discrete on-off feel to them, like a binary toggle rather than an analog press. Of course they would. That would be a silly thing for them to do. Hope they fixed the stick drift. There's the mouse bit that I wasn't sure about. So this is them showing you could use it as a mouse. Who's gonna do that, though? Seems very awkward. Are you gonna hold... like, how do you hold that? Hi, Ewan. Yeah, this is my biggest point of contention. Putting the connectors like that really seems suspicious. Like, they're gonna wear, they're gonna get twisted, they're gonna get bashed. I know there is the bezel around the side to help guide the slot together, but certainly people are gonna put them in such an angle where it's gonna push against it awkwardly. And at least with the rails, it guarantees that when it clicks into place, it's going to do so the same way every time. Really strange choice. They must know what they're doing, though, because this is too vulnerable of a thing to screw with, right? It's critical in every case. This is going to mess up the system if this gets bent. Not that I'm willing to give them very much trust, but, like, they have to know what they're doing or they wouldn't have done it that way. It just seems too obviously bad. Maybe there's just enough leeway that on the upper and lower clearance of how it connects, it won't interfere in any way. Like, it'll slot in relatively evenly, regardless of how close you are to the actual connection. Like, it guides it in with a taper or something. But you'd think it would scratch along the connector points every time you lift it off. You never want to have, like, a twisting motion with electronics. That's usually not the way things go. You want things to slide nicely and evenly straight ahead or up to down. Did we already deep dive the 3 seconds of Mario Kart? Fair question. There wasn't much to say about it, but I did look at it, yeah. If you just showed me this as a, here's the new Switch, like, this is my all things considered takeaway. I like the look of it. I don't know if it's going to be heavy in the hand or awkward in any way. I have to hold it before I know that. It looks more mature, more refined, I suppose. I don't particularly care about that, though. What I care about is the specs, which we don't know. As far as features go, I don't care at all if you can use the Joy-Cons as a mouse. But sure, if it's not interfering with anything, I also don't care in the other direction either. It's fine. I do care that it's compatible with as many as possible of, hopefully, almost every single Switch game. Which I don't know for sure if it's, as you said, just because of Labo or things that use the camera. If it's that, then sure, no big deal. But if they're going to do software emulation and it's going to be a problem and some games aren't going to work correctly because of that, then we have a problem. I wish we didn't have to question those things. I feel like it should be their responsibility to get out ahead of those questions and answer them readily at the first opportunity. But, you know, I like the look of this. The price will also play into it. We need to see the specs. We need to see the launch date. We need to see the price. We need to see the launch lineup. None of those things have been accounted for just yet. Just, you know, more news soon. And yeah, hopefully the weight is not so heavy that it's awkward to hold over long periods. Lynn had said to me that she still prefers her Switch Lite, which has the Joy-Cons integrated into it, and it's slightly smaller. And not that I've really struggled at all with holding the Switch for long periods of time, but it does feel a little bit slightly awkward after an hour or so, where I think if you made it bigger, that could be potentially worse. So it remains to be seen if that's going to be an issue or not, and they certainly seem to be making it bigger. However, the Steam Deck is substantially bigger than the Switch and quite a lot heavier, as I understand, so people seem to be okay with the Steam Deck. Maybe I'm missing something. Hang on. Oh. I hadn't caught this angle. Those must be the release latches. Right? The top corner here, not the shoulders, but the thing under it. Oh, that alleviates so much worry of mine if you have to press anything at all to make it unlatch. It seems like it's in a very prominent position that your hand might land on, but no, I guess it's fine. Like, you'd have to kind of go out of your way to hook it around the back like that, and then it sort of sits with an intuitive movement of pulling it away from the base. I was thinking it should be like a little toggle down at the bottom or on the body of the system rather than up on the Joy-Con, but that actually kind of probably makes more sense because you're going to be pulling it off. And so you can pull it with the same finger that you're using to press and actuate the button. Hi, Girl Glitch. Yeah, I suppose that's fine. I'll have to see how it feels to actuate it, but it's probably okay. I thought they just weren't doing any kind of mechanism, and it was just about, did you want to pull it off? And I don't think that's a good idea, because in the heat of the moment, people are going to accidentally disconnect their Joy-Con. It's going to be really awkward. And then over time of accidentally disconnecting it, or even intentionally disconnecting it, the connection point will probably become weaker. And then at some point, the system is just going to have the Joy-Cons falling off of it. Wow, I don't know how I missed that. We saw the back a couple of times, and I just didn't notice it. Then as far as the Mario Kart footage, I really don't know what to say about that. It looks the same. I don't even know if this is Switch 2 footage. It could just be original Switch footage, but I don't know why they would show that on here. Probably because it's not ready. I don't get the impression this is being rendered at some tremendously higher resolution. The shadows look pretty nice, but it's so blurry, and we're seeing, like, compression artifacts within other compression artifacts. So this is not really a great way to judge the efficacy of anything. Even if this was actually footage, even if this is somehow a video of it running in a, rendered image, we're still seeing it through their compression and YouTube's compression. So, yeah, I can't really judge much from this. As I said before, the ground looks surprisingly blurry. Like, if you chose what footage to show us, the only reason I could think you would choose this footage is to show that it's real footage. Because, like, you can see the stepping on, how it's aliased across this piece of wood. You see how the angle here is coming across as sort of a... Well, it's like a DPI issue. There's not enough pixels there to render it, so it's to chop up the diagonal. So it seems like they're trying to prove to us that this is, like, running on hardware or something. And I mentioned the bezels. Yeah, I wish the bezels were not here, necessarily, but I think they are slightly better than the original Switch. I don't know if they're better than the OLED Switch, which I think had an even better bezel than the original, or how the Switch Lite falls into that, because I kind of don't remember where all of them sit. It's a game where you're going fast all the time. I don't think it's a concern, really. Oh, you're completely right, and I'm only scrutinizing it because it's literally all that's here. You're right, it doesn't matter at all if the ground is blurry. It doesn't. It doesn't matter even if this was natively showing on my computer. Like, it really doesn't. I'm just using it because it's the only thing I can talk about. What else is there to say here? It's Mario Kart. It's just more of that. And then the dock is, as far as we can tell, doing the same thing as it was before. It looks like the wire's coming out of it in the same way the other one did. It's probably got a shell around it. There's really nothing much you could say about the dock. I wish you could see more of it. To me, it feels like Mario Kart 8 looked better than this. That's because we're seeing something, a level in direct sunlight, most likely. This is a kind of an awkward thing to talk about, but a lot of when we take up cues for how good a game can look, it's when we're seeing all of the lighting and shading effects on full display. And if you see something in daylight, you don't have the same sort of opportunities for shading as you do in something that's dimly lit. And there are lots of scenes in Mario Kart that are not in daylight, although there are plenty that are too. So it's not a good choice to show off. But I think their choice may have been that they don't want to show off intentionally, maybe to keep expectations low, or just to show that this is running on the hardware, to not lead us to jump to any conclusions or even make assumptions about it potentially. Because I think people trying to read into this too much will come to the same conclusion I did, where this is just not practical. There's not enough here to grab onto to make any sort of assumptions about the hardware from it. You know what I mean? They're just trying to keep it as, like, flat as they can, and we'll get to the assumption stuff once we can actually have specs. So if that was their thinking, then A+, you got me. Yeah, there's nothing here to grab onto. It's just some footage of Mario Kart. The draw distance looks nice. Probably slightly better draw distance than I would expect on the Wii, or on the Switch, sorry. But that's still making an assumption. It could also just be a skybox that I can't see the delineation point. Actually, I might actually see the delineation point. It might be right after the edge of this dune. That could be skybox there. Well, the camera's moving pretty seamlessly. No, I think I'm wrong. I think it's just rendered now. All right, fair enough. I also kind of like the black design. I think it looks pretty nice. I think having the nod to the original colors, and then there's still sort of a splash of color under the surface, but it's not in your face all the time, you know, the way that this was. Which, I get it, it's playful, it looks cool, it's not like a bad design, but it feels a little bit of its time now, whereas this feels substantially more refined. I certainly prefer this look over the original, although I do think that the Giant 2 is, like, overkill. There's so much, like, refinement and subtlety to the way they did this design, but then having the logo be this massive 2, it just seems like you've thrown that away. They could have embossed the 2 on the Joy-Cons. They could have, like... Well, they could have done any number of things that were more subtle. It seems like they're trying to prove something with the 2. They also could have used the fact that there are 2 Joy-Cons to illustrate that it's 2, right? Like, there are ways that you can get around just having to put a big old number on stuff, if you want. But they just went this route, and so be it, I suppose. It's not the end of the world. It's not even on the actual console. It's just on the stand, or the dock, rather, and the controller I'm never going to use. So I am not actually mad. It doesn't matter. It's just... seems like a slightly missed opportunity for more refinement. Right, okay. Well, that's everything I think I could say about this, and more. We'll have to tune in on that date and see about what they have to say. I'm assuming this will be the specs released. Playing it safe after the Wii U naming. And they're right to do so, because that was a huge misstep. Between the Wii to the Wii U and the Nintendo DS to the 3DS to the 3DS XL to the 3DS... I forget. They did so many iterations. There were just dozens of them. All of that was way too complicated and annoying, and as somebody who had to help guide people toward the correct purchase when I worked at GameStop, this is a big improvement over that, no doubt. I just think it could have been a little more subtle. I mean, we can have it be known as the Switch 2 without having to slap the number in big, you know, large font on things, necessarily. Series of hands-on events held around the world. Is that happening in correlation with this date, probably? Guess so. New Nintendo 3DS was the last set of iterations. Yes, but they also had... What the hell was the one that was shaped like a wedge? That was extra cheap? Was it... the Nintendo DD, or was that the Japanese name for the... I can't remember. Oh, the 2DS. The 2DS. where they just didn't have 3D in it, and they're like, oh no, we're going back to basics, and there's no hinge. I got there slightly before FizzTap wrote it, but yeah, thank you. It's gone out of my head because it wasn't that relevant, and I didn't buy any of those ones. I just had a 3DS basic one, and I never bought another after that. I never liked the 3DS as a gimmick, really. The system is great, but the 3D aspect of it was like, okay, you try it for 10 minutes, turn it off, and never turn it back on again. Or you try it once every 6 months and go, oh yeah, okay, it's still got 3D. It like didn't help mostly anything other than battery consumption, which it made it worse. Right, so that's the new Switch. We got